China's military is not even as good as Russia's. And for China to invade Taiwan, that's an amphibious invasion. Those are extremely hard. Those are harder to do. Those are much harder to do, to go across the water to invade a country and try to occupy it. So basically, the Pelosi trip is a sign of confidence in saying, okay, well, Russia turned out to be a paper tiger. And we know that China has is bogged down with a lot of problems, internal problems, some of their own making. And China's military isn't nearly as strong. And the military challenge to invade Taiwan is even greater than what Russia had to face in Ukraine. And so basically, Pelosi's trip is a sign of confidence that China's threat against Taiwan, it's going to be their Vietnam, basically. If China goes into Taiwan, it's going to be a Vietnam. It's going to be destabilizing. It's going to further problems that already exist, including severe economic problems across China. And you have a generation of Chinese that have just become extraordinarily wealthy and have seen the world and traveled the world, and they know how to access the internet beyond their own world. And if these guys get radicalized with a war, then with a lot of people dying and sanctions and an isolation of China, and I think that isolation would be more realistic, given that our supply chains have been so disrupted because of our dependence on China. So you have a lot more pressure on local supply chains to get built to compensate for limitations coming out of China now because of the pandemic and severe restrictions in China. So what I'm saying is that Pelosi's trip is the United States, because she went to Taiwan with the backing of both parties, the Republican and Democratic parties. So Pelosi's trip is the United States calling China's bluff. They have the confidence to do so in the face of Russia's failures in Ukraine.
What happened in Kansas, that such an enormous number of Kansans of a variety of political backgrounds came out and voted so strongly to keep reproductive rights, to keep their bodily autonomy, to get the government out of their lives. I think that, with abortion, that's always been fraught and controversial, at least in my whole lifetime. I think, before I was born, not quite as much. This was a deliberate propaganda campaign from the right wing that, has been there since the Reagan era. Contraception, is much less controversial than abortion and much, much, much more commonly utilized. And I think if there is a threat to take that away, there would be an uproar, not just from, pharmaceutical companies and people working in those industries who want to keep profits going, but just from regular people, just from everybody. So I don't know, though, because we're operating in a world without logic. We're operating in a world without compassion, a world that doesn't respect our basic rights. If someone had described this current political landscape to you 5 years ago, if they had said, there's going to be a global plague and, one administration is going to let it spread and profit off of it. The next administration is going to say they're against the previous one's actions, but then call it a, quote, pandemic of the unvaccinated, and then, basically lie about how the virus operates and spreads, and then again, not do much besides rush everybody back to work, that there'd be an unpunished coup, that there'd be all these things. Like, you would have thought, well, that's crazy. Like, folks won't stand for that, and officials won't stand for that, and corporations won't stand for that, because the disruption to daily life would be so immense that surely someone would step in. And what we're seeing is, like, no. Folks don't step in, they step on you. They push you down, they beat you down. And thankfully, people are rising up. Ordinary people are indeed fighting back. And on some occasions, even our officials, whose job it is to fight this, are fighting back too.